Awakening Your Everyday Wisdom, video number 10, Spiritual Wealth. We're going to talk about financial wealth a little bit, but mostly this video is going to be about spiritual wealth. There seems to be a lot of stress and suffering over finances, maybe even in our own families. And we all know that there's a pretty big imbalance of wealth globally. Now, I'm not saying that rich people need to be stripped of their wealth and there needs to be a redistribution of resources throughout the planet. What I'm saying is that those who really love to deal with money, make big financial decisions, and take actions that affect the global economy and the local economy, those people, I would love it if they would see themselves as stewards of the planet. Stewards that we can trust to have the well-being of life and the longevity of the planet in mind while making these big decisions. One thing that I think we also need is to balance wealth like this: an equal amount of spiritual wealth to financial wealth. Right now, I don't see it. Might be there, but let's take a closer look in this video. Before we dive in, I'll introduce myself. I am a light worker. That's somebody who has a meditation practice of sending light and love to the whole world. I'm also a seeker. That's somebody who looks for and finds divine truth in many places. I don't subscribe to one particular religion, but I do respect all love-based religions. Included in this video are some affirmations and messages and a guided meditation at the end. So if you'd like to stay for that, I'd love to have you join me. Let's start with a little overview of what I'm going to be talking about. I always like to begin with definitions, so we'll look at that, what's commonly meant by wealth, and then we'll look at how do our beliefs about money and wealth get formed. And I'll offer a metaphysical look at wealth and some other ideas too. And then I'll go over some activities that have the potential of bringing us true joy, the kind of joy that money can't buy. And then I have 5 keys to building your spiritual wealth. And then we'll wrap it up. Starting with Merriam-Webster, let's take a look at some common definitions of wealth. Abundance of valuable material possessions or resources, abundant supply, profusion, all property that has a monetary value or an exchangeable value, all material objects that have economic utility. So we're all pretty familiar with those definitions of wealth. Where do our concepts about money and wealth come from? We each have our own ideas about it, and conversely, we have our ideas about poverty as well. How these ideas were formed is interesting because they vary from individual to individual. And of course, there is some influence from the social norms that affect the way that we view wealth and poverty. The strongest influence in our values and our thought patterns comes from what we were exposed to in childhood. And if that was strong and healthy, we don't have a whole lot of adjustments to make, probably. If it wasn't very strong and healthy and we have some weird ideas about money and poverty and wealth and rich people and All this stuff, we might have to do quite a bit of sorting out and reprogramming our way of looking at wealth. So I'll give a little example from my own roots. And the main character in this story is my mom. And she came from a military family, grew up with quite a bit of security and financial stability. But when she became an adult, she rebelled against capitalism and preferred a native way of life. So we grew up with, I would say, humble circumstances. My dad left when I was 4, and that created a big change in our financial structure. But my mom wanted us to live a simple, easy life, and so we didn't have a lot. She used to refer to rich people in a not demeaning way, but she was worried that they weren't going to get to heaven because of their attachment to money. And there was some biblical reference that I think has been somewhat misunderstood. And she used to refer to their offspring as those poor little rich kids. Now, I couldn't quite get her meaning by that, especially at Christmas time, but she was concerned that those kids were being showered with fancy clothes and toys and fast bicycles, but they weren't getting enough love. And my mom tried to give us all a lot of love. That was her big mission. And I love her for it. But it took a while for me to adjust my thinking about money. As a matter of fact, I spent a pretty good portion of my adult life trying to avoid becoming too wealthy. I know it sounds kind of silly in a way. I'm now very open to the positive flow of energy that occurs when money exchanges hands. And I can see that a lot of good can be done with material resources. So I'm not quite as messed up about it as I used to be, but I still don't like to talk about it very much. And I'm not somebody that you would come to for financial advice. If you want that, I could refer you to some people, but I'm not the one to help you figure out your predicament if you're in one. And if you want to invest or plan your retirement, there are really good people who know a lot about that. Not me. But I can address spiritual wealth. Spiritual wealth brings great happiness and inner peace, which is what I think people who are striving for financial wealth are actually seeking. The thrill of acquisition is so short-lived. It puts people on this hamster wheel of constantly needing more and more to keep that thrill, the excitement, the joy that comes from being able to wield money or buy whatever you want. So I think that there needs to be some balance. And if enough of us develop our spiritual wealth, it might actually create more balance in the world. We'll see. It's something that you can establish and maintain throughout your whole life. Having a strong spiritual base. Whereas financial wealth can be subject to external conditions, shifts in the economy, disasters, or all kinds of things can affect your portfolio. But spiritual wealth can be built and maintained and is very stable. So I recommend investing in it. So let's take a metaphysical view of wealth. Wealth equals energy, life force, and the ability to apply our inner resources externally. When we're happy and loving, we attract good into our lives. When we take the time to replenish our life force through prayer and meditation, we build our wealth reserves. Creating wealth involves creating a flow of positive emotions and thoughts toward the manifestation of desired results and outcomes. We attract what we think about. So, in the metaphysical sense, and you've probably heard this quite a few times actually from the law of attraction, that we mirror our results in life with our thinking. So, if we see something in the world, in our lives that we don't like, we don't want, we have to look at our thoughts to see, what was I thinking? So there's some other ideas here. Let's look at barter. One of the definitions that we had here was all property that has a monetary value or an exchangeable value was part of our definition of wealth. So with barter, we can tap into that exchangeable value. There are some really cool barter groups around the world. In the United States, you might even tap into one of those if you're interested in that concept. Another concept I really like is called the gift economy. And that's based on the notion that giving without the expectation of repay or payback or obligation, without the receiver being indebted to the giver in any way. So in other words, let's say there's an exchange between two people. Somebody gives the receiver something, no strings attached. It's a complete gift. And the receiver can either give something back or not. But there's no hurt feelings. Nobody's keeping score. It's a pure gift economy. And it's very, very beautiful when you practice it. So if you did gain something from this video, please check the like button. And if you feel like sharing it, that's good too. Thank you.